LSU is climbing their way back up in the rankings.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball, your number one sports podcast network, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. I'm here with Golden State Valkyries analyst Sophia Jones. I'm Kalia Butler, the sideline reporter for the Chicago Sky, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Okay, our roadmap for today, we have a little bit of an Unrivaled recap. Sophia was there front and center, boots on the ground. She'll tell us what she saw firsthand. Also, is Iowa State cooked? We'll have to figure it out as they're on a 5-game losing streak and some other upsets that we saw this past weekend. But first, top dogs are remaining top dogs. Big dogs got to eat. And we're going to start with number 6, LSU, 91-72 victory over Oklahoma. Flau'jae Johnson is getting back into her rhythm. Ever since she was held scoreless at Vandy, I think she has made it her absolute mission to prove everyone wrong and continue grinding. She had 23 points, 10 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 blocks, 9 of 19 from the field, 3 of 5 from the three-point line, and was doing everything on the defensive side of the ball as well. Great two-way play by Flau'jae in this one.
Definitely. I think we were waiting for her to have one of the games to her standard that we know she has against one of these top-ranked opponents. Oklahoma, they have a lot of really tough guards that can guard any position along the perimeter. So it was a challenge going into this game, but I thought she handled it really well. And she was the difference maker for LSU and looked like that leader that we know she can be. And you talked about the 23 points. Also finishing with 10 rebounds. So we love a guard that also rebounds because she's just getting the ball and taking it and going herself.
Yeah, absolutely. And defensively, we've talked about LSU really picking up their game on that side of the court as well. I mentioned it a little bit. Flau'jae was having a really good two-way game. But I think what stood out most is that LSU was able to hold Aaliyah Chavez to just 11 points. She was 3 of 14 shooting, well below her average of 19 points per game. And was she just maybe not having the same shots or just not being able to knock them down? Yes, but I think LSU did a substantial job at being able to get her out of her rhythm.
And the thing with LSU's team is they're just so fast. And when they're moving like it's shell drill, they're speeding teams up. So even if an Aaliyah Chavez or anyone's shot looks like it's open, you're having someone flying at you doing a hard closeout. And so just subconsciously, it speeds you up a little bit. And I think that's what we saw that they did against Oklahoma, who themselves has a very prolific offense that they were limited to only 37% shooting field goal.
Yeah, we knew LSU wasn't going to be down for long, and now they have some very big wins under their belt against Texas, now against Oklahoma. We've talked about, some of the preseason games that they had early on before conference and what that looked like, but they just needed to get a second to get their settings together, and they're looking pretty strong. Another game, number 3 UCLA, 97-67 win over number 12 Maryland. Gabriela Jaquez led for UCLA in this one. 22 points, was 10 of 13 from the field, very efficient. Clarice Ledger-Walker, 17 points, 9 rebounds. Gian Neepkin, 16 points, and the list goes on. There are 5 players from UCLA that were in double-digit scoring. And this game, we talk about Lauren Betts a lot, but it was their guard play that was really the differentiator for them.
Yeah, specifically for Gabriela Jaquez, she was 10 of 13 shooting. So she's doing this all extremely efficiently. She's such a great hustle player, always all around the floor. She'll guard the other team's best perimeter player or even into the post sometimes. But like you said, UCLA's guard play really was a shining star for them, if you will. But that's been a little bit of the theme more so this season, where there'll be a lot of trade-offs between their guard play and then Lauren Betts and how much she dominates the paint. Because Lauren Betts is so gravitational, she opens up the floor for everyone, because UCLA finished with 48 points in the paint. So they're just owning the interior against a Maryland team who was really, really strong, looks really good as well. When Shimmy Miller came onto our podcast earlier in the season, she mentioned, she was like, don't sleep on Maryland. They're a very good quality team, and they started out the year really strong, had a couple of injuries, but I think right now UCLA has to be the clear front runner in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we mentioned that a couple podcasts ago, when they're in their offensive rhythm. And as you mentioned, if it's not working as much on the inside for them, defenses are collapsing on Lauren Betts. They have really strong guard play. And if that's not working, you toss it into Lauren Betts. It's really, you can't win in these situations, looking like a clear front runner for the Big Ten, as you mentioned. But UCLA right now, they have 11 straight wins, and their average margin of victory is by 33 points, 7-0 in Big Ten play, 17-1 overall, only losing to Texas, obviously a non-conference game. So this was a big one for UCLA. Another game to make note of, number 9 Louisville, 88 win over NC State, who had 80. This was an overtime victory. What do we like most about this one, Sophia?
Well, we've talked so highly about how Louisville looks like that front runner for the ACC, but NC State definitely gave them a challenge. When you get into these conference plays, it gets a lot more challenging to pull off wins because teams and coaches are so used to each other. So NC State gave them a run for their money, but Louisville's guard play was, again, just what was the difference maker. I thought Amari Berry specifically was so clutch down the stretch. She comes off the bench to start the game, but more often than not, she'll finish the game in a close game scenarios for them. But it was a really physical, it was a really physical overtime. It looked like both teams were just exhausted because they were running so much, but Louisville just had more players making some big time plays.
Yeah, Louisville has looked hot and is continuing to be the front runner, in my opinion, right now, of who can take over the ACC. I think at the beginning, it was North Carolina, it was Duke, but you have to add Louisville to that conversation now, considering the level of play that they are at, but also some of the notable wins that they have had. I mean, even looking back to their game against UConn, that was also a game that Gino Auriemma said that they gave us a run for our money. So very, very strong start to the season. Now we're getting about midway through, and Louisville is still looking really good after getting their first ranked victory. They've kind of been on a roll ever since. We also have number 20 Tennessee against number 21 Alabama. They came away with a 70-59 victory. What was good about this one?
Well, for Tennessee, their defense, quite frankly, they were just able to get so many stops, holding Alabama to only 59 points in the game. And Tennessee, it's always a team effort when it comes to them. We've seen how they substitute. It'll do 5 in, 5 out sometimes, but it's just because they play such high-octane defense. They're looking to speed you up and then score off of those turnovers. So that was really what fueled them this whole game. But SEC is a gauntlet, and for Tennessee to pick up a quality win over a team like Alabama, who shot up into the rankings and is at the 21 spot, is just very much a resume boosting win.
Yeah, Talijah Cooper led the way with 16 points in this game. She had 2 steals, 2 assists, 6 of 16 from the field, 3 of 7 from 3. Always a pretty balanced scoring attack. Another one, Michigan State ranked 15th right now, Iowa wins against Michigan State 75-68. Iowa currently at that 11th spot. Michigan State at 15. Hannah Stuelke rises again, 22 points. She has been key for their offense. And then Ava Hayden coming back, 20 points, strong secondary for them, but it's really been that front court duo for Iowa that has been able to really keep them and advance them in games. We've obviously seen Chit Chat Wright contribute a lot too, but Hannah Stolke and Ava Hayden standing out for this one.
Definitely. Sorry, gosh. But Iowa is definitely more of a team that likes to slow it down, run through their offense, and their front court players really thrive in that scenario, like you mentioned. But this was a really necessary win for them in the Big Ten and beating Michigan State, who has been really, really steady. They put together a great resume beating a couple ranked teams. So I think this win helped to prove a lot to Iowa.
Coming up after this, Iowa State, on the other hand, is on a 5-game losing streak. We have to figure out what's going on with the Cyclones. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the game tips off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. It's 2026, and if you're still paying rent without Built, it's time for a change. Built is the loyalty program for renters that rewards you for your biggest monthly expense, rent. And nobody likes rent, especially coming from a big city like Chicago. It gets more expensive every single year. Every year your rent hikes up just a little bit. So why not make it easier on yourself? With Built, every rent payment earns you points that can be used towards flights, hotels, Lyft rides, Amazon.com purchases, and just so much more. And something I'm really looking forward to is starting next month, Built members can earn points on mortgage payments for the very first time. Yes, soon you'll be able to get rewarded wherever you live and unlock exclusive benefits with more than 45,000 restaurants. You heard that right. Fitness studios, pharmacies, and other neighborhood partners. Personally, I would redeem my points for Core Power. I am a Core Power member and I'm trying to be an instructor there actually. So got to do what's right. Join the loyalty program for renters at joinbuilt.com/lockedonwomen. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonwomen. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Okay. We love seeing upsets, obviously. That's what makes this game fun. But does it get to a certain level of concern when we're looking at Iowa State, who was ranked number 19, is currently ranked 19th? We'll see what the AP polls look like coming up this week. But Oklahoma State upsets them 86-58. Let's first start by saying that Iowa State is dealing with some injuries at this moment, players that are getting significant minutes. But when you're looking to Audie Crooks, 15 points, 7 rebounds, still their main offensive option. You look at that stat line and it's 50 points and 7 rebounds, but we know that she is a double-double machine. So it almost seems like she's not living up to her same caliber. And then Jada Williams, 15 points, 7 assists. Typical stat line for Jada Williams. These are two players that are kind of their main offensive threats. But what it's coming down to, obviously, what we have seen is some of their defensive stances that have just not looked very strong for Iowa State, on top of missing some additional offensive assistance.
Yeah, whenever you are down players, offense is the first thing to go. People aren't used to playing with each other. There are different lineups, specifically for Iowa State. When you look at the absence of Addie Brown, she would be in the front court starting with Audie Crooks. Going into, or a couple games ago, Addie Brown was actually the leader in minutes per game for the Cyclones. So she's had a major role throughout this season. but she's more of a stretch four. She can shoot the three, space out the floor a little bit more, but still very dominant within the interior. But she helps to balance out Audie Crooks, as opposed to now all the attention is just on Crooks. Teams are able to double, triple her sometimes, but just show a lot of coverage and hands. But despite the fact that offense is the first thing to go, like you said, I think you can still try to hone in on your defense as much as possible. It might take a little bit of shifting and specific game planning with different lineups, but it shouldn't be this drastic for how dominant Iowa State was, quite frankly, looking prior to these injuries.
I agree with you 100%. Obviously, Addie Brown, I think, is somebody that really stood out for me, especially in their win against Iowa, which I think has been one of their most significant games this season, kind of taking a turn afterwards. But we saw the impact that she had kind of as that second option in a way at times to Audie Crooks, she can space the floor a little bit more, very athletic. But to your point, when you still kind of have your main threats in a Jada Williams and an Audie Crook, it is starting to get a little bit interesting that some of these games have been as drastic as they've been, as you mentioned, and maybe not a little bit more competitive as we would expect. But on the other side for Oklahoma State, who could possibly find themselves back in the rankings this week after this win, Saley Hurd had 18 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists. She had a triple-double in this game, and there were Oklahoma State players in double-digit scoring in this one.
Yeah, and as a team, Oklahoma State, we talk about Iowa State's defense again. They were 14 of 37 from threes, so that is 38%. So they were showing high volume and high efficiency from the perimeter. Their offense was just flowing at all cylinders, and they looked really, really strong.
Big statement win for Oklahoma State. Another upset. Mississippi State defeats Kentucky 71-59. This was a really good one for Mississippi State. Carissa Richardson had 23 points, which is a career high for her. 7 rebounds, was very efficient scoring. Had a big second half, was a little bit quieter in the first. What did you like from Mississippi's gameplay?
Their defense, they really, really limited Kentucky's primary options. Their biggest scorer and probably their biggest offensive threat is Clara Strack. She only finished with 10 points, had 15 rebounds also, but she was limited in her offensive production. And the Wildcats in general really struggled to shoot. They were held to just 32%, and they were 5 of 29 on threes. So what that's telling me is that Mississippi just sat in the paint and said, we're going to let you guys shoot. And Kentucky did not make them pay.
Yeah, absolutely. Really struggled with shooting. As you just mentioned, that 5 of 29, 32% from the field. Tough shooting day for Kentucky, but great job by Mississippi State to kind of stick to that game plan and make them try to shoot them out of just sticking within the paint and coming away with a win. Our last one, in terms of our upsets, Georgia 82 victory over Ole Miss, 82-59 victory over Ole Miss. So some of these upsets looking very comfortable as well. What stands out to you most when you're seeing some of these ranked opponents right now, or ranked teams going up against unranked opponents and kind of the significant margin of winning?
Yeah, well, I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of these upsets, at least 2 of the 3 that we talked about in this segment, have been in the SEC, which is just such an incredibly competitive conference. And any team can win in almost any given night. This game was in Athens, Georgia. So the Bulldogs had the home crowd to their advantage. But just like you said, there is such parity right now, I think, in women's basketball. And it's so easy for anyone to win on any given night. There has to be even the circumstances that you look at for Iowa State, who's dealing with some injuries. Kentucky, one of their key front court players, was also out. So injuries play a factor as well. But sometimes, especially in these competitive Power Four conferences, it's just whatever team shows up and decides that they want to win more that day.
Absolutely. A game that I'm excited to see today, and it's going to be a kind of a battle of who wants it a little bit more. Notre Dame and UConn are facing each other at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is going to be an interesting one. Very curious to see. Notre Dame is going to have to put up quite the fight to try and take down the number one team in the country right now. But coming up after this, stick with us because Sophia is going to tell us exactly what she saw at Unrivaled this past weekend.
During basketball season, there is nothing like being in the building. The energy, the crowd, that first big run that gets everyone on their feet. Fans want to be there for those moments, not stuck refreshing screens or guessing what tickets are really going to cost. That's where GameTime comes in. The GameTime app gives fans the advantage back, making it incredibly easy to score amazing tickets. Fast, simple, and without the guesswork. Like Kalia said, I was recently at Unrivaled, and I'll just say the in-arena entertainment was top tier. DJ absolutely just ate down, but like GameTime says, there is nothing like being in the building. You really want to be there, especially whether it's Unrivaled, NBA, World Cup. You want to be at some of these events. So take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off.
Well, Sophia, you saw some very monumental shifts when it comes to games on Friday that you went to. The Laces beat the Phantoms 76-75, a close one. But then the Rose having a tough weekend after going undefeated. They had back-to-back losses, but the Hive had their first win so far this season in Unrivaled, 78-75 victory over the Rose and Chelsea Gray. Give us a little recap of what you saw on Friday from gameplay, but also what was it like just being in there, being part of the audience?
Yeah, I would definitely say that for some sporting events, you can make do just watching it on TV, quite frankly. But I felt like Unrivaled, being in the building, what is already a very fast game, it looks even faster. It's even more physical. It's an intimate arena as well. So you're hearing a lot of these players go back and forth a little bit, some things that you might not catch. I was sitting right behind the Laces bench and then the Rose bench. And there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of looks being exchanged going around. So it is an extremely great environment to be in. But the one thing that just stood out to me so much is the level of skill that these women operate at is so incredibly high. It's something that displays itself even more in person. I think I was particularly impressed with Chelsea Gray. There was a stretch in the game against Hive. She just came down and pulled and knocked down like 4 straight threes, all very highly contested. It was something like I don't think I've seen before very often, to be quite honest, but it was just a really great environment. And especially, I'll highlight that game that Rose played against Hive. Any team can win on any given night because the skill that just everyone has from top to bottom is so incredibly high.
And I feel like for people that haven't been able to see Chelsea Gray play in person just yet, we've both had the privilege of doing so. It really is majestic to watch. Or even, obviously, I haven't been to Unrivaled, but watching the Aces play firsthand, it is a different level than what you see just on your screen watching TV. It already looks very physical, as you said, looks physical, looks intense, but being able to have those firsthand experiences. And my favorite part, maybe that's just because I'm a sideline reporter, but my favorite part is hearing that kind of back and forth banter and just knowing that players are really going up against each other and they're really competing, and it gets really serious out there. But really excited that you got that opportunity. I think that's something that now I got to go out there. Now I got to get to Miami and experience that firsthand.
Definitely. And like I said, the in-arena entertainment was actually so fun and interesting. Sometimes the like in between media timeouts or the media timeout activations can be kind of corny, to say the least, but Unrivaled, they did everything right.
I also, from that game, let's talk a little bit about the Hive getting their first win. Kelsey Mitchell, 24 points. She really led the way. What stood out to you about watching Kelsey Mitchell play in that one?
She's so fast. She is so fast. I think part of Hive's game plan when Kelsey Mitchell had the ball was, how can we just clear out the left-hand side and get her going downhill with her strong hand? And that is exactly what worked. That is how they got the game-winning play off of a sideline out of bounds for her.
Absolutely. We love watching Kelsey Mitchell play. And obviously the fact that she was able to lead the Fever in the way she did, literally putting her body on the line. I'm glad that she was able to recover and come in to Unrivaled and obviously doing the same things that she has done prior. Some other key ones: the Mist beat the Lunar Owls on Saturday, and Vinyl beat Breeze. The youth unfortunately went down, but the Lunar Owls, we've talked about before, just having a really tough run in Unrivaled right now.
Yeah, and at least for that game specifically, Skylar Diggins is back for the Lunar Owls. She's still getting incorporated into the play of everything. It was going to be a tough matchup going against Mist, who is 3-1 right now in Unrivaled, but I think as Skylar Diggins probably gets more incorporated, that will definitely be a boost. And I think between her and Marina Mabry, the feistiness of that pair itself has to get them a win.
I feel like they just knew what they were doing, putting those players on a team together. You pick the two largest crash outs in the WNBA. I can't wait to see them both get angry at the same time. We already saw, literally on the first night, we saw Marina crash out already. And then you saw Skylar Diggins like in the timeouts, basically being her bodyguard, like making sure nobody else has something else to say. So now if they both get very upset about a call, whatever the play may be, I'm very excited to see that firsthand, because that's what kind of adds a little added layer of excitement, is just seeing how passionate they are about it. But Sunday's games as well, Laces beat Rose, again, going back to back in losing 70-66. And then Hive, right after they had it up in winning, they fell to the Phantom.
Yeah, like I said, still, any team can win on any given night, but Laces are kind of looking like the strongest group right now.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend in women's basketball, and we will have more to recap with you coming up tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching Locked On Women's Basketball. Make sure you stick with us, and